It is Thursday, October 29th. I'm Pastor Thor Ramsey with Center Church. This is Gospel for Five, where we take 5 minutes out of our day and focus on the gospel and the one who saved our soul, because Jesus is the gospel. So we're in the letter of Galatians. We've been going through line by line. We're in chapter 2. And to recap our story so far, the Apostle Paul, in this section, is writing the Galatians, telling them, 14 years ago, I went up to Jerusalem, which is primarily a Jewish church, to make sure that the gospel I was preaching was the same gospel they were preaching. I had Titus with me, who was a Gentile, who was a non-Jew. I presented them the gospel that I was preaching, and they didn't force Titus to be circumcised. So if you Galatians think the Jerusalem church is the pinnacle of the Christian world right now, and it very may well be, their gospel is the same gospel I was preaching, which is Jesus plus nothing. But you had these false Christians, big law Christians, seep in to spy out the freedom. This freedom that all they had to do was believe in Jesus, the Jesus presented here. Now, these big law, and even in the church today, we have big law Christians. You know, Christians who are legalistic by nature, who say, well, you have to be doing this and that and this and that. You really have to perform in order to be accepted by God. Whereas the gospel is, to be accepted by God, you go to Christ. That's it. That's all. God have mercy upon me, a sinner. The big law Christians are generally, though they may not verbalize this, thank God I'm not like other people, that I'm not, whatever the dregs of society that they think are the people that they think are the dregs of society. They're thankful they're not like those people. And that's the big law Christians. And this attitude seeps into the best Christians. And it really stems from what? A shallow understanding of the gospel. It really does. Because even though they would, and a lot of these big law Christians in the church today are legitimate Christians, it's just that they have a shallow view of the gospel. So they think, yeah, I'm saved by grace, but to really be a Christian, I need to do X, Y, Z, Q. And if those people really want to be good Christians, they also need to be X, Y. They need to really imitate me. They need to perform the way I'm performing so I don't feel so alone. Because it's bondage. That's what Paul says here. When you add anything to the gospel, it becomes bondage. The gospel is Jesus Christ. That's how we begin this program every day. This Gospel for Five, this 5-minute devotional. That's how we begin it every day, that Jesus is the gospel. So if you add something to the gospel, you're adding something to Jesus. And basically you're saying Jesus Christ is inadequate to save you. That's why you have to add something. Add baptism. There's a whole movement of Christians out there who believe you have to believe in Jesus and be baptized in order to be saved. That's adding to the gospel, we're going to find out. You have to believe in Jesus and add 3 extra books that came through an angel to some guy, Joseph Smith. Add that to the gospel. And what do you have? You have a false religion. Anytime you add something to Jesus Christ other than how he's been revealed in this word, you have a false Christ, and false Christs equal false gospels. There is no good news without this Jesus. And then this Jesus, again, the theme of this letter is salvation, is Jesus Christ plus nothing. You add nothing to the work of Christ. You add nothing to the work of Christ. 0. So they slipped in to spy out our freedom that we have in Christ Jesus so that they might bring us into slavery. Anytime you move into the big law Christian's realm, it's going to bring about slavery in your soul. And I guarantee you, so many of us have been struggling most of our Christian lives to get free from the influence of the big law Christians who left such an impression upon us in our early Christian lives. And it does such damage to the Christian soul, such damage to the freedom, the joy that we have in being free, freely accepted by God. That's the whole thing. We're freely accepted by God because of Christ. And the enemy is always trying to move us into the big law Christians realm so that we might feel that bondage, that inkling that God may not quite accept me today. I really got to get my act together so God will accept me today. Maybe after I have a good day, God will accept me, but I know right now He's frowning upon me. He doesn't take joy in me. That all comes from bondage, from the bondage of the big law Christians who want to bring you back into your performance-based view of your relationship with God. It's Jesus plus nothing. Now, what has God said to you today?